Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to a very special edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. It is a Surprise Monday show. Surprise Monday stream right here live on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. And this will also make its way over onto the podcasting universe as well, because you can listen to the Mr. Warren Hayes Show on all your favorite podcast applications, ranging from Apples to Googles to Castboxes to Overcasts to everything in between. It's all there. Podcoin, Spotify, Podbean. Go check it out. It's a great way to also listen to the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Because, whoa, here I'm tearing everything up here. It's a great way to also listen to the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. The light is very bright. Apologies for a second there. It's much better. Yeah. Because then you can listen, you can take me anywhere you like. Doesn't require as much bandwidth as watching video, does it? There you go. But yeah, it's Monday. I decided to jump onto the to the recording thing and record a thing right here live. And by the way, be sure if you're watching this live, feel free to give the video a thumbs up. Also, feel free to share the video out into the universe. Let's get some people in here. Let's get some talk. We're talking about NXT, and I'm going to I'm going to try my best. Hang on, let me start over. I'm going to focus on what could possibly be some positives here for NXT, because perhaps you don't know exactly what we're talking about, but earlier today, the Figure 4 Online, The Observer, Dave Meltzer reported that it's a done deal that's going to be announced tonight on Raw, as we're streaming this about an hour before Raw starts, that NXT is indeed moving from the network, the WWE network, and will be ending up on the USA network, as opposed to a lot of people who were guessing FS1 for Fox, but no, apparently be heading over there onto the USA network Wednesday nights, head to head with AEW's show. Now, as I said, I'm not this is one space right now where I'm not going to give in and sort of stoke the flames of any WWE versus AEW war. We've got plenty of spaces out there in the universe to do that. Now, I want to focus on NXT here, because I heard a lot. I heard a lot of stuff from people online. I did ask for some opinions. It's very, very mixed, and a lot of people. I think I don't want to dismiss anyone that has reservations regarding NXT and how it's going to be handled moving forward, because if we're being perfectly honest with each other, ladies and gents, WWE doesn't have that great a track record ensuring that that their properties are well managed and may still look good. NXT has a nice soft spot within its in the heart of its fans. A lot of people who are afraid that moving on to a network will mean that it will lose its flavor. Well, that we won't know really until it starts. But let's see. But like I said, I'm not going to sit here and talk about, how this is a detriment to AEW. Damn you, WWE, for doing this. Or, I hope Vince stays out of it. This is not where I'm going to try and focus on maybe some net positives, some good things that could come out of this move over to USA. And by the way, I didn't mention this. Boosting up an hour, 2 hours of programming instead of just one. And that's a big deal for NXT. Just want to take a minute to say hello to folks in the chat. Aaron J's fan is here. Carlos Vaporos Vape is here as well. Thank you everyone for joining us. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on the situation. Aaron J's fan, who is obviously Canadian as I am, we're both crossing our fingers to see where NXT is going to end up in Canada. WWE has a working relationship with Sportsnet and Sportsnet 360, which is where it's broadcast, where Raw and SmackDown are broadcast here. So if NXT is not on the network anymore, and Wednesday nights are usually hockey nights. They're traditionally hockey nights here in Canada. So it'll be I'm crossing my fingers to see where this ends up, because we don't have Hulu in Canada. So even like if it goes on USA and then ends up like the next day on Hulu, we're still boned. There's no way to watch NXT. See, Carlos says NXT under Vince is going to be a disaster, but we don't know this. This is speculation, folks. This is all speculation. And Ross Vape says, good, I can cancel my WWE network. Outside of it's going to be a blow for me. NXT off of the network. I'm not quite sure what to do with the network moving forward, but hey, I want to thank everyone for being here nonetheless. I'm really glad you're here. And like I said, like the video, thumbs up, send it out there into the universe. And if you like these surprise streams, well, helping get the word out is fantastic. It's a great way to do it. Also, you can consider leaving a tip for your boy Warren at tinyurl.com. Tip Warren, or buy the t-shirt, the I'm Not Dead t-shirt, because by God, I'm alive. whatforapparel.com/I'm Not Dead without the punctuation. It's all in the description anyway. You can all go check it out. All right, let's so first and foremost, NXT is going to be moving to a 2-hour format, and I think that's probably the biggest change right now, because it, still staying on Monday night, and as far as the details go, we don't have a ton of details to go on right now. We, I have questions. Are they going to become a touring brand, or are they still going to be anchored at Full Sail University? There's still lots of questions open. But for now, going to 2 hours is a big deal, and a lot of people think that this is like the detriment. This is the end instantly, the instant calamitous catastrophe that will burn NXT to the ground. In your boy's opinion here, I think more time in the case of NXT. Now I'm trying to keep a microcosm focus here on NXT. I want to, not necessarily what's going on with the other brands, or the 5 hours of existing programming that exists with no data. Did I just crash? What do you mean you're not receiving? Oh, okay. Sorry about that, folks. I thought it looked like the connection crashed for a second. Hopefully everything's okay. Okay. Apologies if it didn't. It showed that no data was heading over. All right. What are we talking about? 2 hours. So the 2 hours of wrestling. I think it's good, because you know what? Here's the thing. There are tons and tons of people on the NXT roster, and I'm not talking performance center recruits. I'm talking people who have had matches in NXT, who have been assigned to NXT, and who we barely get to see. Because, of course, you're going to focus on your stars, the Johnny Garganos, the Adam Coles, the Undisputed Era in general. We're going to focus on Matt Riddle. We're going to focus on Tyler Breeze, who came back as well. Kushida, they're pushing as well. But there's a whole bunch of people still on that roster, and they've included 8 new guys with the breakout tournament. I mean, that's a lot of people for a 1 hour weekly show. Like, I don't care what despite the fact that it might stretch it out a bit and might dilute a little bit the product, you're still seeing more talent, and this is good for the talent. I want to say hello to Jody, who just jumped in the chat, and Cody Collier, as you can all see right here, right there in the subscribers area. Cody's a new subscriber, so everyone say hello to Cody. So basically, there's tons of people that will be getting new opportunities, that will have the opportunity to get in front of a camera. And like someone said on Twitter earlier today, there are wrestlers in NXT like Velveteen Dream, like Adam Cole, like Johnny Gargano, like Tommaso Ciampa when he comes back, who deserve to be on cable television and to get into the hearts and minds of people. Now, we're thinking very much as fans here, which is normal because we're fans. But the talent that we've been a fan of in NXT, the people that we've been cheering for, wanting good things to happen for, this is a good thing that's happening for them. It means more people on TV. It means more matches. It means introducing new, exciting faces to fans who maybe don't have the network and will finally have a chance to see it. They've been pushing NXT hard. WWE over the past few months on Raw and SmackDown. NXT, this is happening. Takeover. So maybe there's a lot of people who just heard about it but don't subscribe to the network and will finally get a chance to see it. So to me, that's a very, very good idea. And we're talking about the top guys, but there are other dudes that will be able to get an opportunity to be seen a little more, like Mansoor, who I think is fantastic and has tons of upside. Raul Mendoza, who is fantastic as well, and Dominik Dijakovic. I think a big winner in this situation is going to be Keith Lee, because clearly they've been looking for something to do for Keith Lee. I think Lee is going to forge a fantastic spot for himself within a 2-hour show. So I'm okay with this. But then even on top of that, you've noticed I've only been talking about the guys. But what about the ladies? What about the women? If you listen to my show last Thursday, I had Kristen Ashley of Bell to Bells on the show. And Kristen came on with some to state the point that NXT isn't the bastion of women's wrestling that we all seem to have the impression that it's under, that they're just as systematically part of the problem in WWE of underrepresenting their women. And she came in here with very hard data. Some very, very, she had a bunch of statistics to back up what she was saying. It was a very, very interesting talk. And if you haven't listened to it, check it out here on the YouTube channel, or better yet, listen to it on the podcast, because I did have some technical issues and the podcast recording is perfect. So what a great way to start getting acquainted with Warren Hayes on the podcast form. But look, you've got Bianca Belair, Candice LeRae. You have Io Shirai. You have the horsewomen, of course, Shayna Baszler and Mia Yim, Io Shirai. I said Io, right? And these are just the women that are featured on a regular basis. But then under that, you have Tenara Conchi, who in her last appearance, I think it was like already 2 months ago, she looked fantastic. She had picked up so much. She has grown so much. You have Deonna Purrazzo, who they haven't done anything with, or barely anything. They just scratched the surface, and she is an amazing wrestler. Dakota Kai's on her way back. You have Chelsea Green, who's in the Performance Center, and she's raring to go. You have Rachel Ellering, who's I don't think she's fully healed yet, but she's on her way. It'll mean more time for the NXT women as well. It's a net positive for everyone on the roster, on the NXT roster, because they will all get extra time. They will get more time. And yet, thank you, Aaron J's fan, Santana fucking Garrett, finally in the Performance Center. She's fantastic. So these are all very, very good signs for the talent. If I am NXT talent, I'm excited for a 2-hour show. And I think as fans, we should also be excited for them to get more exposure. And, as far as the storytelling goes, because this is a concern, and I will agree, I will concur that it is a concern for me as well. Wondering what are they going to do with the storylines? One of the reasons why NXT is so tightly produced and taught is because they put out a month of taping, 4 hours of programming They tape it within one evening at Full Sail, and then you have a month worth of stuff there. Are they going to go live? It's not clear yet. I'm not quite sure what they're going to be doing. So, of course, there is the concern that if they start going live and they start writing week-to-week stories as opposed to sitting down, planning out a month, and then going forward with that, it's a little it might affect the product a little bit. I concur, just in the inherent way that WWE works. It's we've heard all the stories. We've heard the Jon Moxleys of the world tell us how things work in WWE as far as the creative goes. So it's not necessarily something that we're looking forward to. But then again, nothing keeps them from keeping the show taped, taping a show just as you're doing now, one evening, you tape 4 hours. But instead of stretching it out over 2 months, you stretch it over a month. You stretch it over 2 weeks, and then you tape some more. More taping, more money. Then everyone makes more money. The talent makes more money. Guys on the staff on production make more money. The money issue is something there as well. Going for a live show, and I'm just speculating here. At this point, I'm just shooting blanks. I have no idea what we're talking about. Well, I know what we're talking about, but I don't know if this is real. We're just speculating, is what I'm trying to say in a very roundabout way. Producing a show live is extremely expensive, and I don't care if you're in a smaller venue. If you're doing it live, you're broadcasting live. It's expensive for the production company, i.e., WWE. It's expensive, but it's expensive for the network as well. So this is all overhead that we do have to consider. Maybe in the deal with USA's like, well, look, we know you guys can put on a good Raw, good SmackDown, but your third brand here, we're not quite sure. Maybe we should try and find its sea legs first before going live, and maybe that's right. Maybe they'll do a live event once in a while. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But there's that we have to consider as well, as whether they are going to go live or not. Let's see what we're talking about here. We're talking about casuals versus hardcore fans. Yeah, I'm not a big. Because people in the chat are saying, they want casuals. NXT is hardcore fans. Vince caters too much to the casuals. This is a rhetoric I have difficulty getting behind, because the idea is just put out a quality product, and people will come. It's just as simple. And in the case of NXT here, the idea here is this is going to be the very basis of the brand, because you have Raw, you have SmackDown. How is NXT going to differentiate itself? Remember when WWE had ECW? ECW was a brand in and about itself, and the way that it differentiated itself from the two other brands is because it was hardcore. It was blood and violence and weapons and strippers. Were there strippers? You know what I mean. There weren't actually strippers. There was stripping. Anyway. But, ECW positioned itself like that, and it didn't quite work out. So this is something that I will be looking forward to see, is how WWE positions NXT in regards to the two other brands. We know it's a developmental brand, but even there's an argument to be made as to whether NXT really still is a developmental brand. But let's save that discussion maybe for another, or talk amongst yourselves about it. Do you guys in the chat, do you guys feel that NXT is still a developmental brand? Because it could be for some of you. I think part of it is, part of it ain't. I think a lot of it isn't. Maybe are they going to establish NXT as the brand of stars of the future? Maybe, but then again, you're bringing back down Tyler Breeze and Fandango. Bringing back down, you know what I mean? Transferring them back to NXT. They're not stars of the future. They're clearly better represented within NXT. So what is it going to be? exactly? How are they going to position NXT in regards to Raw and SmackDown, who are the main roster shows? But here's one thing that we won't have to worry about anymore, or at least worry less. The stress of the call-up. Having our NXT favorites being called up to main. And then all of us being worried like, oh no, what are they going to do? You know? I think, well, please don't call up Velveteen Dream. They're going to ruin him on Raw. The way I figure this is that maybe, just maybe, if NXT isn't living in as much of a bubble as it is right now on the WWE Network bubble, and is perhaps existing on cable TV, therefore part of the consciousness, maybe more part of Vince's mind palace, let's call it that. Maybe when the NXT stars do transfer over to Raw or SmackDown, then maybe there's a continuity that will happen. Maybe now we'll see more of a logical shift from one brand to another brand to another brand. Just as wrestlers who transfer between Raw and SmackDown, they don't change their gimmick, they don't flip them around just because they're going on other brands. Could be, they could be hanging on to, they could just maintain the wrestlers, maintain their gimmicks, their storylines, and just transfer them over. And to me, that would be much more fluid, would be better for the wrestlers, better for the fans. Not having that stress of having like, what are they going to do with them? For me, I think it's going to be a really, really big deal, because that disconnect when you're an NXT fan, like I am, the disconnect that exists between NXT and main roster is frustrating sometimes, because, you do get behind, let's say, Samoa Joe. And, his legendary NXT championship run, legendary, I don't know, just wanted to throw in an adjective, but his NXT championship run is never referred to. They never talk about it. Then he starts feuding, let's say, with Finn Balor. They'll never reference their great feud. Or, the ladder match between Finn and Kevin Owens, that's never alluded to either. Or in the case of the women, they'll be like, oh yeah, Sasha and Bailey, they fought before in NXT. Yeah, no shit, they fought before in NXT. You know what I mean? Like, there's the accomplishments that we get behind on NXT are often discarded once the pop-up on main happens, and that's what I find the most frustrating. I want to say hello to Jason PS3, who jumped in the chat. He asks, are NXT to be at full sale every week? That's it. We don't know yet. That's what I was saying a little earlier on in the stream. There's a lot of technical details that we're not aware of, a lot of logistics that aren't clear right now. But at least we do know that NXT is going to be 2 hours. Is it going to be live? Is it going to be taped? Is it a touring brand? Are they staying at full sale? We just don't know yet. We're just sitting around shooting this shit. Aaron J's fan says, when I was talking about, when I asked the question, what do you guys think about NXT? Is it still a developmental brand? He says, not on TV, but in the NXT live events, they are developmental. That's true. They do bring out a lot of the PC folks over onto the live events, and that's some fantastic stuff. And Carlos says, Vince has already shown he doesn't know how to use NXT talent. Look how Vince tweaked Ricochet. I actually think Ricochet's doing really good on main. I think he's actually a really good example of someone who's had a fantastic transition over to main roster. That's as opposed to someone like Kairi Sane. That's a bit of a wet one. But I think it's good. I think it's good that on that level it will help. I think it helps everyone, create more attachment to fans. Now, is my dream finally going to come true, where we will get a Survivor Series where there will be a Team NXT now? I've been wanting that shit for years. the battle for brand supremacy. My fantasy booking has always been, you send NXT people on Raw at the end, jumping over the barricades, beating the shit out of the main roster people, then standing tall in the ring. You do the same thing with them on SmackDown, and then Raw and SmackDown are forced to work together to take out these NXT punks. Are we finally going to get that? Or at least something close to it? I'd love that. Or 3 teams? Like you have Team Raw, Team SmackDown, Team NXT. I'd love that. And no, Aaron, it's not like the Nexus. Not like the Nexus. No. Not like the Nexus. Better than the Nexus. If they do it again, honestly, it would be, I would assume that it wouldn't be booked as terribly. Look, because just consider this. The Nexus wasn't its own TV show. NXT is its own TV show. So you have NXT come in, start beating up guys on Raw, guys on SmackDown. People will be like, what is this NXT thing? They start tuning in. You make them look strong, maybe have them win Survivor Series. This is how you promote a brand. With the Nexus, it was all just a question of the egos and all that kind of stuff. It's all egos, right? But it was all like, oh no, this person isn't ready, so on and so forth. But here they have a brand to promote. So why not do cross-brand promotion? It'd be great. That would be great. Joe Cook, how you doing? Welcome in the chat. Asking what are my thoughts about NXT on USA. That's exactly what we're talking about. That's what we've been talking about. That's all we've been talking about. Talking about NXT on USA. Focusing on the positives because I think it's a net gain for people in the employ of WWE for the talent. That means more time for them, more exposure. Really looking forward to see what they're going to be doing on NXT. And Aaron asks, who would be your NXT Survivor Series team? Of course, you put Adam Cole in there. You get Johnny Gargano in there as well because they have to coexist. You put Matt Riddle. Those are your 3 top guys right there. If he's ready, you put Tommaso Ciampa in there. If he's ready. And I'd round it out with Keith Lee. That would be Team NXT, and they would beat the shit out of whoever they have on Raw. Joe says that he thinks it's a good idea to be on NSC USA as well, but it says the only problem is an absurd amount of commercials. Well, here's the thing: it's a good business decision for WWE, right? It's more money for them. It's more money. It's absolutely more money for them because then more revenue, more commercials. That makes I think it's just good for them. I think it's a great way for WWE to continue down that money gravy train. Business-wise, it makes a lot of sense. If they have a hot property like NXT and they feel that it could burst out a little more, get some marketing behind it, make a little extra cash, why wouldn't they? And again, like I said, for those of you who are joining the stream right now, I'm not getting into the head-to-head stuff with AEW. I think it's important that we focus on the picture, the NXT picture, and how it will affect the brand, how we feel it could affect the brand. I think there's a lot of good to come out of it, considering the amount of details that we have now. But as if there's one thing that I'll say about popping on to USA in early September or mid-September, it's a hell of a smart move to get their shit going before. Excuse me, I have something in my throat. Yes, I want to say hello to WTPOD Wrestle Thoughts. How you guys doing? Getting onto USA weeks before AEW starts up. It's what they had to do. It's what they had to do. They want to go head to head. They want to compete. Get your wrestling get your wrestling viewing audience or non-fans, new fans into this programming. Get them into this new comfort zone where it's like, no, you know what? Your Wednesdays are going to be with us. And look, we're going to lead you in right now. It's literally, they're literally like opening the door. Here, come have a seat. Look at this comfortable futon we have here. Kick your feet up on our poof right here. Yes. Oh, do keep your shoes on. Hey, you're fine. Would you like a soda? Perhaps an alcoholic beverage of your choice? Would some Tostitos? So base, I think as far as the AEW juxtaposition goes, they did the smart thing, starting off before. It's just making a lot of sense. It's just making a lot of sense. Drop some comments in the chat, folks. I'm gonna be wrapping this one up soon because Monday Night Raw is starting, and of course, the King of the Ring. King of the Ring starts tonight, and I'm really excited about that. If you guys want to hear how excited I am, I did a whole bracketology thing last Friday. I did a surprise Friday stream as well. I'm full of surprises these days. So if you want to check out the Friday show, I went over the King of the Ring brackets, and it starts tonight. So I'm a big sucker for wrestling tournaments. I really, really love wrestling tournaments. So it's easy to get me. It's easy to get me excited with it. Let's see here. Jason PS3 says it's a great idea, and a lot of people have been saying this. Joe Cook sort of echoes the thoughts here, and it's been mentioned throughout the chat here this evening. It's a great idea being moving NXT to 2 hours on Wednesdays, as long as Vince is not part of creative decisions. We're going to have to see how this works, folks, because Vince, even though Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman are supposed to be in charge of Raw and SmackDown, or SmackDown and Raw respectively, Vince still has final say on everything. So is this something that he will want to do with NXT? Or will Triple H remain master of his domain? We don't know. But as it stands right now, it's purely speculation. We don't know anything on that level. And you know what? We probably won't know who's in charge of what for reals until we get to the very first show. I can promise you that whoever is making the final creative calls on NXT once it heads over to USA, you can rest assured that on the first show, Triple H is going to come out on the very first segment to rah-rah cheer, like, hey, we're on USA cable TV now. It won't be Vince. Regardless of whether Vince is in control or not, Triple H is going to come out, and they're going to keep the image of Triple H closely associated with NXT because it is a net boon for audience perception, for the fans. Because I agree with all of you. If this becomes another Vince McMahon show, the base of fans of NXT is going to dissipate. Because one of the reasons why a lot of us really, really like NXT is because it doesn't feel like main roster. So if it starts feeling like main roster, I think a lot of us will naturally be switching over to another program that might be airing on the same night and the same time. Carlos says 2 hours of NXT could cause burnout. 6 hours of weekly content. Well, first of all, it is more than 6 hours of content. We're talking about, this would actually bring it up to 8 hours of content because you have the 3 hours of Raw, you have the 2 hours of SmackDown, you have 1 hour of 205 Live plus the 2 hours of NXT that is upcoming. So it's 8 hours of programming. But Carlos and everyone listening, you don't have to watch it all. You don't. You can. That's the beautiful thing with wrestling, is that there is so much out there. You pick what you want and you watch it. You just decide what to watch. And it's not a question of, either or, and you can't even watch both. There's streaming services now. You can record on your DVRs now. You can do all of this shit really, really easily, so you don't even have to pick. And if you don't want to watch Raw, and you only want to watch AEW and NXT, maybe SmackDown once in a while, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. You don't have to watch everything. I choose to watch everything for a bunch of reasons, because I love wrestling. I love WWE regardless. It's a long-term thing. It's an ongoing relationship that I have with WWE. And I want, I like the major league aspect of it. I'm looking forward to watching AEW, and I want to get into it. I'm a big New Japan fan. I adore New Japan. I've started watching Stardom just recently, thanks to my boy Jonathan Pilquist, JPQ, Big Paws on a Pup, from the No Particular Podcast Angle. Sign up, go find that guy and subscribe to him. But there's so much more I want to watch. But at some point, you make choices and you watch what you like. So don't burn yourself out watching wrestling. There's too much choice to just focus on one thing. I want to say hello to Omizi20 and Zeus King, who jumped into the chat. Omizi says, put 205 live with NXT. Earlier in the chat, I was saying that, in the stream, I was saying that NXT, in and about itself, all alone, had such a huge roster of people. If you were to add 205 Live to it, I think you're adding an extra level of talent that will end up obfuscating, relegating some talent that we're not seeing right now, relegating them even further down the card, and then we'll never see them again. What I would say, and this is something that I've posited in the past, instead of having 205 Live be after SmackDown, tape it at Full Sail during your NXT shows. The Full Sail crowd is a wrestling crowd. They will get much more easily into 205 Live. So tape your 205 Live there instead of after SmackDown when all the big stars are gone and the audience is just completely burned out, right? So we'll see. Vape Ross. I don't know why. I always have trouble saying your name. I'm sorry about that. VRV says, do you think AEW or WWE will buy Ring of Honor or TNA? No. But I think that if the possibility to acquire their catalog were to arrive, their videotape library, that's the value. The talent is not you can't purchase the talent. When you buy a wrestling company, you're not purchasing the talent, you're buying their contracts. That's exactly what happened with WCW when they were purchased. Because the wrestling company in and about itself is rings, it's maybe some gear, but you're not buying the talent. You're buying their contracts, and that really doesn't have much of a value ultimately, because you still have to honor those contracts or whatever. But the real value is the tape library. And in both cases, in Ring of Honor and TNA Impact, because we're talking about TNA, but it should be Impact. Impact understands the value of its tape library because they had created their service, GCW Wrestling Online, whatever it was called. Now they've referred to calling it Impact Plus, and they're pushing it hard because they understand the value of what they have. AJ Styles in his heyday, Samoa Joe, you have the Hardys, you have all the Hardys Broken Universe that's there. It's the deep and all sorts of people. Rob Van Dam, you have Hogan, you have Flair, Kurt Angle, and some of his fantastic matches that he had there. They all happened on Impact. The Impact tape library has more value than what's ongoing right now, quite honestly. So if they were to purchase anything, it wouldn't be to purchase the company because the company is just a shell. It's a ring. It's a ring bell. Maybe some ref jerseys, but it's the tape. I'm exaggerating, but it's the tape. It's the tape libraries that have value. Joe Cook says, I've been watching WWE too long to just stop watching, so that's why I'm still watching it. Haha. That's always when people write down haha, you know, in a tweet or in a chat, to me it's always like haha. Just in my mind, it's like a disconnect with whatever tone they're using. It's just like, I'm still watching it. Haha. Too many storylines that I've seen to the end, you know. Yes, I understand. Jason PS3 says Stardom is amazing, and I agree. I haven't been watching long. I'm getting into it. That's why I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I got to tell you, Azumi, holy shit. I love that little girl. She's like 16. She's fantastic. She's such a little shit. I love her. She's fantastic. Vape Bros, vape ads, but you get the ROH roster. I would buy out Marty and Flip's contract if I was Tony. You're talking about Tony Khan. I'm assuming. Yeah, but see, the concept is that the contract, when you buy a company, since the talent are all independent contractors, you're not acquiring the talent, you're picking up their contracts. That's the thing. You don't get the roster, you get the contracts. It's not like that's pretty much it, you know, and all the contracts all have set dates and so on and so forth. So, you know, that's why, you know, some of the wrestlers, when it was time for when they were honoring the WCW contracts and when they did the invasion angle, that's why some of the biggest names weren't there, because they were like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to sit out my contract. I'm going to wait till this burns out, and then I'll renegotiate. And that's in their right to do so. So there we go. Zeus King asked me a question here, but I'm not going to get into that. I'm just pointing it out. You can send me a DM. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is that. I'm going to wrap up this little Monday night surprise stream. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you. I want to thank you all for popping in. Again, I'm always amazed that I just without any planning, I just pull these out of my butt and people show up. It really, really does mean a lot. It really, really does mean a lot to me. So I'm going to wrap this up so that we can all settle in, start watching Raw, get into the King of the Ring groove. Can't wait to see that, man. I'm ridiculously excited for it, but like I said, I'm a sucker for tournament wrestling. So yeah. So NXT on USA, there's a lot of good out of it. That there's a lot of good that can come out of it. And I think it's important for us to focus on it. We shouldn't be blinded. You know, there's a lot of iffy stuff that comes to mind as well. A lot of things that aren't clear, but they will clear up. And we will be able to focus on whether it's a good thing or it's a bad thing once we actually get into it. And I think that's an approach that we should all do. I have the same approach with AEW. I think AEW is a good thing for wrestling in general, to have another mainstream wrestling company. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I think it's a good thing, but we'll see how it goes. So there we go. Oh, Benoit came in at the last moment again. Well, at least you get to groove to the outro. Folks, thank you again very much for joining, and I'll see you next time.